Hello, everyone. We're going to jump right into the split because personally, that's why I watch running influencers. Not that I am one, but that's what I do. My last video was about locking in, and I stated my split schedule was going to be full body push, pull, legs focused. But I never did that. I actually instead was still training with my powerlifting coach in hopes to one day powerlift again, so I was doing that split. And it ended up kind of being similar, but it was upper push focused, legs squat focus, legs deadlift, and secondary bench, and then an upper pull focus day. When I was doing that, it was Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and running was only Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I stand by this split. This 3 days of lifting and 3 days of running, maybe 4 days of lifting if you wanted to, but you can do push, run, pull, run, legs, run, or push, run, legs, run, pull, run, or you can double up like I did. So I kept this 3 run, 4 lift schedule, running Monday, Wednesday, Friday, lifting Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and then again doubling up Monday and Friday because Saturday I was just lazy and I didn't want to wake up early. By all means, if you have room to spread your days out, I would 100% recommend it. Whenever I start training for a marathon, I will most likely start implementing Saturdays in my workout once again. I know some of y'all are used to upper, lower, but I couldn't do a long run and legs. I tried that once and it was terrible. My pace was slower, my legs felt horrible. They weren't really sore, but more fatigued, and they felt heavy. And then my watch had died. Granted, I didn't wait 6 hours. I did maybe 30, probably longer than 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes to hour and a half before going into a long run. But that's just how my schedule works. I don't always have time to, rest 6 hours and then run or lift or however you want to do that. The next week, it was pretty good. It was fine, whatever. Then the week after, another bad day. I had bought a running vest and I was using it and it started chafing in my stomach and it hurt really bad. And I almost got ran over a few times. People don't know how to drive or they just don't care about pedestrians. And then the next week, it was fine. So running has its highs and lows. So it would have actually been better if I had lifted either the day before or after or ran. Well, yeah, actually lifted before or after, not run, because running was Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I usually don't train very heavy on my second leg day, so that's another reason why I have upper, lower, lower, upper. So going back to my running split of 4 days lifting and 3 days running, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it was actually created by me, the internet, and ChatGPT. I'm sorry to admit that I was part of the problem with using a bunch of water to cool down the ChatGPT, AI, OpenAI, whatever cooling systems. I had made it so my weekly mileage wasn't over 10% because that's what I heard online. So Mondays were my speed or interval days. Those were where I did mainly sprints. Um, I now know a better way of programming where I, warm up with a mile and then do sprints or strides or intervals and then, cool down with a mile or maybe not even a cool down. Wednesdays were my steady runs with a bit slower pace than a tempo, and it started at 20 minutes going up to an hour, and the pace was 10:30 to 11 for me. And each week progressed from 20 minutes to 22 to 25 to 28, again all the way to about an hour. Then Fridays, those were my long runs, and it could have been Saturday or vice versa if you want to do Friday and then lift Saturday. And I started it at 3.5 miles, and I wanted to progress to 8 miles with a half mile each week, but I think it somehow ended with 7.5 because during that time I did have a few injuries where one time I was running, I had kind of twisted my ankle, so that hurt for a week. And then another time was I was just too sore to run. So I just wanted to rest. My feet hurt, my calves hurt because I went to the Renaissance and I just needed a break. So on the days I couldn't run, I still did some type of cardio using my indoor bike. What's funny is the week before my 10K, I had gotten sick. I was gifted, like a lot of us, with that Christmas fever. I luckily didn't have a fever, but I had a sore throat, I was a little tired, and sometimes I had a headache. I just wasn't feeling 100% or even 90%. So I didn't run until the 18th, and that was just a mile to see my breathing and to see how I might be during the race, if I could even do the race, because the race was December 21st. And I don't think I was 100%, but I was probably 90, 95. And again, I hadn't done anything. I didn't ride the bike, I didn't work out, I didn't do anything. I was pretty lazy. But it was because I didn't feel well. I didn't want to overdo myself and then actually not be able to run. Even though I had a week off from lifting and running, I didn't feel untrained. I actually felt stronger and held the 10:30 pace, which was the goal, but I expected it to be more of a 10:40, 10:45 pace. For all of the training, I ran with my phone, Apple Watch, and an armband. But halfway through the program, I bought a running vest and it came with a water flask. In the beginning of my runs, I did wear AirPods, but I sweat so much that I started to just listen to it aloud, and I even did that during the race. I'm kind of looking into getting those Shocks earphones or like those earphone speakers, but it's not a big priority of mine. Again, I like listening to it aloud. And then, of course, when I'm passing a school zone or people or kids, I will lower the music. Also, going back to the running vest, apparently there's controversy about when you should wear a vest, when you should bring water, when you should drink water, but I know when I need water, I need it. I feel that you can't really help it. If you need a vest or to carry water, do it. It doesn't matter if it's 3 miles, 10 miles, or 1 mile. You should do you. Now, on to shoes. Throughout this whole program, I ran with the Saucony Axon 2 shoes, and I like them. They're pretty good. They were definitely an upgrade from my Adidas and New Balance shoes that weren't made for running. I had bought the Saucony shoes for the Lucky Trails 5K in 2023 and have used them ever since. My first impression were they made me run on the balls of my feet, and I did feel fast, but it could have been placebo. Although I can say that these definitely helped my blistering problem and a little bit of the knee pain that I had. With my runs progressing all the way up to about 7.5 miles, I did notice that around mile 4 in the Saucony shoes, let me be more specific, in the Saucony Axon 2 shoes, my feet would get sore and I would start to get blisters on the balls of my feet or the edge of the balls of my feet. But overall, again, a great shoe in my opinion. Fairly cheap. It was about $65. So a really, really good pair of shoes if I were to start out on a budget. But if you plan on longer runs, I would look into different shoes. I also want to preface that I don't have any special running socks and I didn't even know they existed. And I still don't have them. Will I purchase them later? Probably. All I did was wear just thicker socks to protect my feet from the friction of the shoes. As far as the 10K, I was kind of disappointed because the Santa Hustle was not a full 10K. It was actually about 5.9 or so. But if I had continued at the pace I was going, which was roughly 10:30 pace, I would have gotten about an hour and 4 minutes, which was the goal, kind of somewhat of the goal. ChatGPT said that my time should have been around 105 or less. I was expecting like 110, 113. Although it wasn't officially a 10K, I'm still proud. So, what's next? I'm signing up for the Lucky Trails run in 2026, and it will also be another 5K run. I was in between training for my first half marathon or another 5K, but because the Lucky Trails is in the middle of March, it gives me about 10 weeks. So, from again ChatGPT and other people, I was in between setting a PR for a 5K or just finishing a half marathon. I think I want to try to get a PR of 28 minutes or less than 29 minutes. How about that? And then try to go longer distance. I guess the 2026 Lucky Trails 5K will be my last official training for a 5K. And the goal pace is, I think, around 9 to 9:20 to get a 28 to 28:59 minute 5K. I know that's still slow and I'm still trying to work on my pace, but I think it's also going to be good to try and strive for more endurance and then start playing around with getting faster. If for some reason, which is very possible, if for some reason I get lazy and don't want to train for endurance, I can still train for 10 and 5Ks and try to work more on my strength or physique. And lastly, I have an idea of another video planned for this 5K before I start training for the marathon. which I think is going to be in October. But the goal this year of 2026, 23 miles at 23 years old.